So we're going to be continuing Makot. Now today's daf is Amud is the Amud 3a, but we're going to be starting at the bottom of Amud Bet before we get to Amud Amud Aleph Gimel Aleph really, because because that's where we ended off. We ended off at the two dots at the bottom, where it's Mishum Rabbi Akiva Amru v'chule. It's according to what Rabbi Akiva says. And just to give a recap as to what we're about to learn, we said that there were four things about Edim Zomim that were stated. We can't make an Ed Zomem of Ben Gerusha and Chalutza. We can't make an Ed Zomem we can't make an Ed Zomem Chayav Galut. We can't make an Ed Zomem Eved Ivri. We can't make an Ed Zomem pay the Kofer payment, and then Rabbi Akiva added a fifth one, which is that we can't make an Ed Zomem pay if they confess by themselves. So now we're going to discuss that. That's what Rabbi Akiva said. He said Ed Zomem cannot pay he cannot pay on his own confession. If he confesses, he doesn't have to pay. So the Gemara then says. So the Gemara asks, "My Talmud Rabbi Akiva. What is Rabbi Akiva's reasoning? Kisavar knasahu, because Rabbi Akiva held that it is a knas, it is a fine, as opposed to compensation, where you do damages, you pay somebody back. It's a fine for doing something wrong. You get a parking ticket, you didn't damage anybody by parking there, but you have to pay a fine for parking in the wrong place. So too, Rabbi Akiva held that this is a fine. The hazama payment is a fine. Uknas in Rishaman al piatzmo, and the halacha goes that a fine you don't pay based on your own confession. Meaning, if you confess, you don't pay for the fine. So the Gemara cites a supporting view, which is Rava. He says, Amar Rava. Rava said, Teda, know this, Shaharei lo asu maaser u'mishalmin, that they didn't do anything, yet they have to pay. Meaning they didn't. If an Ed Zomem tries to accomplish something, they're caught before they accomplish anything. So if I say that Shmuel owes $1,000, I didn't, and then I get caught to be an Ed Zomem, Shmuel didn't incur any damage, so it clearly can't be a payment for compensation, because Shmuel doesn't need to be compensated. Nothing happened yet, so clearly it's a fine. So Rav Nachman says pretty much the exact same thing, but a different example. While Rabbah was talking about just in general, Rav Nachman says Teda, you should know Sharei Mamon Beyad Baalim U'Mishalmin. Rav Nachman says that you should know that the money didn't even leave the owner's hands. So, except still they have to pay, meaning that the owners didn't lose their money. There's nothing to compensate, so they still have to pay. Now, these are the exact these 2 points are the exact same. So, on the top of Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, the Gemara asks, "Ma'inin hu delosh asu maseh." What's the point of Rav Nachman? He's repeating the same thing as Rabbah. Rabbah said that no damage was incurred, therefore the Edim Zomim clearly aren't paying compensation; they're paying a fine. And then Rav Nachman says the exact same thing. So the Gemara says, "Ema, say, let's reword the Rav Nachman's opinion. Instead of starting Rav Nachman's opinion with Teda, no, meaning that it's a whole new point, you should change it. V'chein amar Rav Nachman. You should say, and Rav Nachman said, meaning that he added onto it. It's just a technical point that the Gemara is saying, where instead of saying it as two separate points, Rabbah says, then Rav Nachman says, it's Rabbah says, and Rav Nachman adds. So that's it. It's nothing major. Just a technical point that the Gemara wanted to hash out. Anyways, so now the Gemara is going to look at a statement of Rav and analyze it. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav. He says, Ed Zomem Mishalim Lefi Chelka. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav, that Rav says that an Ed Zomem pays his own share. So what does that mean? My Mishalim Lefi Chelka, what is the meaning of they pay according to their own share? Ilema Dehai Mishalim Plaga V'Hai Mishalim Plaga. If you say it means that since you need at least two people to be witnesses, so if you, let's say, as Shimon and Levi say Shmuel owes $1,000, and they're found to be edim zomim, so that means that Shimon pays 500 and Levi pays 500. So if you're saying that, Tanina, we've already learned this in a Mishnah. It says mishalin b'mammon ve'en mishalshin b'mammon ve'en mishalshin b'malchus. It says in a different Mishnah that they divide with money, but they don't divide with lashes. Meaning that if they try to convict somebody of getting 39 lashes, you don't say that the two edim split the 39 lashes. They each get their own set. But if it's a monetary fee they're trying to inflict on somebody, so then you don't say that, oh, we accused him of stealing $1,000, so now each one has to pay $1,000, each ed has to pay $1,000. No. The only thing they were trying to inflict was a $1,000 loss, so they only have to recuperate $1,000 by splitting the fee amongst all the edim zomemim. So we already learned that in a different Mishnah. We don't need this statement from Rav to teach us that. So what could Rav possibly have been talking about? So now we're going to find out specifically, because there's going to be a back and forth of what he could have meant or what could he not could have meant. But we have a statement from Rav, and we have to find out what is he trying to teach us. And so the Gemara is going to say that it means this, and then the Gemara is going to say, but we already learned that from this. So then, so then never mind. It doesn't mean that. It means this. The Gemara is going to say, but we already learned that from over here, so we don't need Rav to say it. And we're going to specifically find out what Rav is trying to teach us here. So it says, so Ella, rather, kigon de itazum chad minehu. Rather, we're talking about in a case where only one of the two edim zomemin are found to be zomen. Meaning you have Shimon and Levi who are claiming that Yehuda owes $1,000. But then two edim come and say Shimon only, not Shimon and Levi. How could you have seen this transaction take place? How could you have seen this theft take place when you were with us in Massachusetts? How could you have seen this happen? But it's only one of the edim. So maybe what Rav is trying to say is if only one of the edim are found to be edim zomemin, then that means that only half of the fee is paid because half of the witnesses are found to be zomem. So Ella kigon de itazem chad mineu. So what if only one of them is found to be zomen? The mishalmin plaga dedea. So the Rav is probably teaching us that the one who's found to be zomem pays for half of the fee. Umi mishalim, but does he pay anything in that case? Like, what do you mean? Does he pay anything? V'hatania, but it was taught in the Braita. In ed zomem mishalmin mamun ad sheyezamu shnehem, that an ed zomem doesn't pay any money unless both edim are found to be edim zomemin. Meaning it's an all or nothing deal. It's either both are found to be zomemin. It doesn't have to be like it could be two witnesses for each, but it's not that like half the witnesses are found to be invalid, therefore half of the fee is incurred. It's either both of the witnesses are found to be zomemin and they pay the fee, or they don't pay any fee. But it's not like, only one of them was found to be zomen, therefore he should pay for half, because it's half of the people that were being an ed zomen, so half of the fee should be paid. So then the Gemara says, fine, Rava didn't mean that. So what did Rava actually mean? Amar Rava. Rava said, edut sheker ha'adati. So then the Gemara says that fine, Rava was saying that if one of the two edim zomemin, they confess and they say, I testified falsely. Except how does he testify falsely? And specifically the ed zomem way. Meaning, Shimon and Levi say Shmuel stole $1,000 in New York. But then Shimon gets a guilty conscience. So he goes to the judges after his testimony is over, and he says, listen, I'm feeling guilty. I was actually in Los Angeles, so I couldn't have seen this theft take place, which is the exact thing that you need to say for somebody to become an ed zomen. So this person, according to his own confession, is making himself an ed zomen, so to seem. So maybe that's what Rava is saying. So it's talking about a specific case, the Omer edut sheker he'adati, that I was a false a false witness by placing himself in another place. But then the Gemara asks, Kol mineha, is it, can he, Kol mineha, Kol mine, is it possible, can he do that? Does he have the power to do that? There's a halacha that if somebody testifies in court, they cannot change their testimony anymore. Once a testimony is in the books, it's over. They can't change the record. It's already in. The judges can't take into account his confession. That's against the rules now. So he can't even say that. So then Rav says, fine. So the Gemara says, fine. So maybe it's Ela Ba'omer, the witness says, Ha'adnu v'hezamnu bebeit din poloni. So rather, it's that, fine, I understand that if I'm in a courtroom, I can't change my testimony. So the two witnesses, both of them, they go to, one of them goes to a different court where the testimony isn't finished because he hasn't even started it yet. And he says, listen, in a different courtroom, I was an Ed Zomem, and he confesses there. So the Gemara says that doesn't work either. It says Kiman delo Rabbi Akiva, but that's not according to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva holds that if somebody confesses, doesn't matter which courtroom you're in. An Ed Zomem does not pay for a confession because a confession is because being an Ed Zomem, you have to pay a knas, you have to pay a fine, and you don't pay a fine if it's a confession. So Rabbi Akiva says, I don't care if you go to a Beit Din in Peru, doesn't matter. You cannot charge an Ed Zomem any fee if he confesses to his crime of being an Ed Zomem. So that doesn't work either. Okay, so we're going to read it in the Gemara now. It says, Kiman delo Rabbi Akiva. According to whom is this? Because it's not Rabbi Akiva. The Ikar Rabbi Akiva, because according to Rabbi Akiva, Hi Amar, Rabbi Akiva said, Af enu mishalom al pi atzmo, that an Ed Zomem does not pay based on his own confession. So the Gemara says, okay, fine. So if it's not that, then maybe it means this. So Ela be'omer, rather Rav is referring to a case where the person says, the Ed says, He'adnu behuzamnu bebeis din poloni. He said, not only did I testify, but we were found to be zomemin in a different court. Ve'chuyavnu mamo, and we were held liable that we have to pay money. So the Gemara says, okay, fine. So this is the case that Rava was talking about. But what was Rava trying to teach us in regards to this case? Because if we're going back, because Rava said his statement 50,000 years ago, let's just read the statement now when we know what he's talking about. It says, so Rabbi Yehuda says the name of the Rav, Ed Zomem Mishalman Lefi Chalko. So Rav says, an Ed Zomem pays according to his own share. So then the Gemara finally tracks down the case that Rav is talking about. And what is he talking about? It's talking about a case where an Ed Zomem runs away from the court and then goes to a different court and says, I was found to be an Ed Zomem in a courtroom in New York, and I was a witness, and I was found to be Ed Zomem, and I was found to owe money in a courtroom in New York. So now he's not confessing that he committed a crime. He's confessing that he was convicted. It's a very different thing. So, but what can you learn from that? What is Rav trying to teach us? So the Gemara says, Salka de tach amina. He says, without Rav's teaching, you would have thought to say, Kevan de la chavera lo matzei mechayev le, that since if one Ed confesses in a situation like this, that he can only confess to him for himself, but he can't confess on behalf of the other witness. Why? Because if you want to prove an Ed Zomem to be an Ed Zomem, you need two witnesses. So if Shimon says, I was an Ed Zomem, And Shimon says, Levi, the person who was testifying with me, was an Edzoman. Okay, so if somebody is confessing to his own thing, that's enough. You don't need two witnesses because you're saying, I did it. But if you're saying that Levi was convicted and owed a fine and he was an Edzoman, he was found to be an Edzoman and he's found to owe a fine, the courtroom will say, where's your second ed? You need two edim to convict somebody of a crime like this. You need two, and you're only one person. So you would have thought to say that he could only convict himself. He can't convict the other guy. So then, if you can't convict the other guy, we just learned the rule that if both of them aren't found to be zomin, then one of them can't be found to be an ed zomem. So I can prove that I was an ed zomem. I can't prove that my partner was an ed zomem. Therefore, neither of them will pay the fine. So what Rav is trying to teach us, Kamash Malan, Rav is trying to teach us that in this situation, that the one making the admission owes the money, even though not all of the edim were found to be edim zomamin in this situation. He still pays the fine. That's what Rav is trying to teach us. Okay. Now, on to the next Mishnah. Now, this is a little bit of like a financial banking and risking and all of that risk assessment and things like that. It's a little bit interesting. So, we're starting the new Mishnah. The Mishnah says, "Ma'idin anu et ish peloni shegiresh et ish." Oh, so before we start, what you have to know is that when somebody gets married to somebody according to Jewish halacha, they give their wives a ketubah. Now, what is a ketubah? A ketubah is a statement that says that in the event of a divorce or a death of the husband, meaning if the husband divorces the wife, chas v'shalom, or the husband dies before the wife, chas v'shalom, then the wife gets paid at least X amount of money, whatever is written on the ketubah. So it says that if Shmuel if Shmuel divorces, I don't want to use Jewish names, if Paul divorces some shiksa, then Paul has to pay the shiksa $300. That's the agreement that a ketubah is. Lahavdil of Avdalas. I don't want to say that Jews are getting divorced, but non-Jews don't have ketubahs, so it's a little interesting. But anyways, so that's what a ketubah really is. So, but another thing you have to know is that if the wife dies before the husband doesn't have to pay the wife anything. Clearly, because the wife's already dead. You can't take money with you to the grave. So if the wife dies first, then the husband pays nothing. But if the husband dies first, then the wife gets at least a certain amount of money. She gets guaranteed a certain amount of money from the husband's estate. Or if the husband divorces the wife, then the husband is forced to pay the wife a certain amount of money. So that's the rules of the ketubah. So now we go to our Mishnah. Ma'edin anu et ish peloni shegerash et ishto. So we're testifying that this guy divorced his wife, velo natan la ketuvata, and he did not pay her the value of the ketuvah. And then the witnesses were found to be zomamin. So what are they required to pay? What's the value that they're required to pay? But it doesn't say when the husband has to give the wife the money. He could have given it today or tomorrow. If it's a divorce, if it's death, then it happens upon the splitting of the estate. But if it's a divorce, then he could give her the money at any time. It doesn't have to be immediately. So Rather, Obnin kama adam rotza liten b'ktuvata shel zo. So what the Gemara is saying now is this. It's saying that a ketubah is worth, let's say, the husband agrees to pay the wife $3,000 in the event of a divorce or death, right? So one might think that a ketubah is worth $3,000, but in reality, a ketubah is not guaranteed because, as we discussed, if the wife dies first, then the ketubah becomes meaningless. The husband tears the ketubah up; it's not worth $3,000. So, if anything, with investing, you have to realize the risk versus the risk of investing in something. So right now you have an investment, so to speak, where you could potentially make $3,000, or you can make nothing. So the value of such an investment won't be $3,000 because there's risk associated with it. So it's going to be less because you might make, you might lose. You don't know. You're betting on this, but it's not going to be worth $3,000. So the Gemara is saying now is that he may not have to pay. The ketubah isn't a guaranteed document. That's what it means. I'm sorry, I misspoke. He said that in certain situations he would not have to pay ketubah if she dies first. So how do we find out how much the edim zomamin has to pay? Because it's not just as simple as giving the value of the ketubah. That doesn't make sense. Because the value of the ketubah is only worth the amount of the risk it is, not the dollar amount. Because the dollar amount's not guaranteed. So then the Gemara says, so we assess how much a person would be willing to pay now on the speculation for the rights for which he would entitle her to the ketubah. Meaning we're saying that, like we assess how much is somebody willing to bet that this ketubah is gonna come through and they're gonna give a money amount. For example, somebody's gonna say, oh, this wife, she's not healthy at all. So I don't think that this gamble is worth it. So even though the ketubah is worth $3,000, she's more likely to die before he will. So it's probably only worth $500 because it's most likely not going to get paid because she's probably going to die first. So we're going to speculate how much somebody is willing to put a value on the bet that the ketubah is going to go through. We're evaluating on the chance that she'll be widowed or divorced. While if she would die before her husband will inherit her and he'll have to pay nothing. So we weigh the chances that she's going to get divorced or he's going to die first versus the chances that she's going to die first, and we assess the value, and that's what we charge the edim zomemim. Okay, now we have the Gemara. It's a very short Gemara on this section. It's the Gemara says, "Ketzad shamin." How do we appraise the amount levied for the zomemim? How do we appraise the amount of the zomemim paid? So Amar Rav Chisda says, "Baal." We talk about in the position of the Baal, meaning in the Baal's perspective of how much the ketubah is worth, but Rav Natan bar Oshaya Omer, Rav Natan bar Oshaya says, "Be'isha, we the edim zomim pay based on the speculation of how much the ketubah is worth, based on the wife's perspective." Amar of Papa says, "Be'isha uvi ktuvata," that you pay worth of the position of the wife, but only in the regard of the ketubah. So only when talking, not like the wife in general, only in regards to the ketubah is what you assess and have the edim zomim pay. Good. Now we have the next Mishnah. We're not going to go into the Gemara after the Mishnah. We're just going to do this Mishnah and it here because it's conveniently at the bottom of the page. So the Mishnah, we say that somebody owes. So Shimon owes Levi 1,000 zuz. Almanach liten lo mikan ad shloshim yom, on a 30-day terms, meaning in 30 days you're going to pay me back 1,000 zuz. V'hu omer mikan ad eser shanim. But the borrower says he didn't give me 30 days, he gave me 10 years. And then these two edim were found to be zomin. So let's say two edim come and say Shimon borrowed from Levi 1,000 zuz, and Levi is saying that, and the loan was for 30 days. But Shimon is saying, what? No, the loan wasn't for 30 days; it was for 10 years. So now, regardless, it's $1,000. It's 1,000 zuz. It's not that the edim zomin are going to pay 1,000 zuz, because regardless, the guy has to pay 1,000 zuz. So how do we assess what the edim zomin have to pay? So omdim kama adam rotza liten. We assess how much somebody is willing to give. V'hiyu be'ado elev zuz, that he will have in his hand 1,000 zuz. Bein notnan mikan ad shloshim yom. Bein notan mikan ad eser shanim. What we're doing is we're evaluating how much is one willing to pay to have 1,000 zuz in their pocket for 9 years and 11 months. For that 9-year and 11-month difference, because loans are among Jews are interest free. So it's very valuable to have a 10-year loan for 1,000 zuz, because you're not paying interest on that, and so you're just pretty much, you have 1,000 zuz in your pocket for 10 years. So what you do is that you say that how much is somebody willing to pay to have 1,000 zuz in their pocket for 9 years and 11 months, and that's the amount that edim zomin pay. That's the end of our Mishnah, and we're going to get to the Gemara tomorrow. We're at around 20 minutes. It's looking like it's 26-minute time, but I'm gonna try and talk a little faster and not go on a lot of tangents. And we're gonna keep it at around 20 minutes. I'm still working out the kinks. Sorry, thank you for bearing with me. But Chazak Baruch, Bezrat Hashem, I'll see you tomorrow.